everyone, so how do we move our hand to create the perfect stroke? To make sure you create those nice strokes, move your hand back and forth. Before you start your strokes, make sure your pinky finger is extended. We're moving your hand like this. Your index finger moves in and out, as well as up and down all the time. Your index finger serves as your pushing finger. Additionally, remember to keep your hand relaxed. There's no need to squeeze it. Your thumb holds the pen, but it should remain relaxed. The more relaxed your thumb and index fingers are, the better your strokes will be. There should be no pressure on the pen at all. It's meant to stay in your hand and be guided back and forth by your index finger. All the work will be performed by your index finger. When you push it this way, it's important to keep your wrist relaxed to allow the pen to return smoothly. This is how it is supposed to look. The movements can be slower, it is totally fine. The speed of your hand depends on your comfort. However, avoid going too fast or too slow. If you're using a pencil instead of a pen, follow the same steps. Just remember to keep your wrist relaxed. When doing your strokes, place them close together. When your machine moves back and forth, it creates a pendulum-like motion when viewed from the side. You can observe the pencil moving in this manner. Now, using a pen and a ruler, let's create a table divided into 3 sections. We'll apply varying amounts of pressure in each section to achieve different types of shading. Ensure that your pinky is extended and keep your wrist relaxed. Now, replicate the same movements as you would with a permanent makeup machine. Create soft strokes and aim to connect them smoothly, avoiding large gaps between the strokes. When filling out the first segment, use a darker color by applying slightly more pressure to your pen. Make sure to address any areas where you notice significant gaps between your strokes. With the first segment completed, let's now work on connecting and building our second segment. When creating the second segment, start your movements by overlapping the previous one. I'm starting at the point where I can clearly see the ending of previous stroke. Instead of beginning where the strokes appear to be over, I go back about 10% above that point. This allows for a visual connection. I'll demonstrate this further when I make another pass to fill in some gaps. As you can observe, there's a visible connection where the strokes overlap. When working on real human skin, this overlapping, which is approximately 10% of the stroke's length, can be beneficial. It helps the segment blend nicely during the healing process. In my next segment, I'll aim to minimize visible overlapping and create a smoother blend without a noticeable visual connection as much as possible. Your strokes can be slower, it's entirely fine. Your speed should be based on your personal comfort and preference. You don't have to match the same speed I work with. I tend to be quite fast when it comes to shading, but a slower pace is also acceptable. We're just extending our strokes from the previous segment. these two segments is much less visible. So I'm sure by doing my next connection, it will be even less visible. The more you practice, the better it gets. Now, when it is getting too light, you just go over it again to make it more saturated and fill out the gaps between the strokes to keep the color even. We can always blend the color by coming back and adding more strokes where needed. Let's build one more segment here, and in the next column we will do less pressure. That way we will make color less saturated. Since this part here is slightly darker, I'd like to add more color to even it out. This is what it should look like in the end. The darkest color is here on the left, then we have the middle column with lighter application of the color with less pressure and passes, and on the very right we have the lightest application of the color with a very small pressure applied. At the end it should look like a gradient going from the darkest color to the medium to the lightest. We can do less passes with less pressure if we need to control the color saturation. Draw a square like this, starting with the darkest color and applying more pressure. Then gradually reduce the amount of color from the darkest to the lightest, creating an ombre effect. This technique is particularly useful for the heads of the eyebrows, which are supposed to be lighter than the eyebrow's body and tail. Begin with slightly more pressure and passes, then gradually decrease it. Keep your strokes as close to each other as possible to create the darker look. For the lighter part, it's acceptable to have more gaps between